Awesome. So let's get started. So the full stack of user experience. Just as if we have full stack developers, which are, from what I understand, front end and back end, they kind of do everything. User experience has these different disciplines as well. And today we're going to talk about them a little bit. What are their goals? Why are they here? Essentially, with the designers you work with, like, I want you to come away with at least some language to be able to talk with them, but also some keywords if you want to go Google and do some more searching and a deeper dive in the user experience. I will try to hold some time at the end for a Q&A. So to get started, what is user experience? What's this UX thing? It is a hot topic right now. UX designers, there are not enough of us for all the job openings. That is a statistic from Jared Spool. There is a UX design school opening up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, if you decide to change careers and want to do this at some point. So to get started, usability.gov defines it as user experience focuses on having a deep understanding of users. So users are number one. What they need, so user needs. What they value. We also need business goals and objectives, our users' abilities, and also their limitations. So that's our usability.gov definition. Nielsen Norman Group is an organization in the UX world. They do a lot of research into behavior of people and how they use the web and products. They have a little bit broader of an approach here on their definition. User experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with a company, its services, and its products. That's definitely a little bit more broad. Usability.gov is definitely more pinpointed. However, the key takeaways that we use to define user experience is we focus on our users, we focus on products, we focus on services, we focus on goals of our users and our businesses, and we focus on our users and our business objectives. So that's the broad stroke take of what is user experience. So why is it important? Why is all of a sudden there's like a ton of jobs out there and not enough designers to fill them, and every company is asking for a UX designer? So companies are now finding out that if your users are not enjoying their service or the product that your company is offering, they will leave. They will take their business somewhere else. Apple is definitely the first company to promote user experience, and it's kind of the standard now. A lot of designers will hear, we want to be like Apple, and Apple's Apple because it's Apple. You're a large company. If you work in finance, it's going to be hard to be Apple. So that's why UX is important, is your customer base is starting to demand it. They're starting to compare your product to other great products out there. So, the disciplines of user experience. There's a lot. And I know if you were at Tracy Osborne's talk yesterday, I did see that she had this slide in her deck as well. There's a lot that goes into user experience in general, into design. There's a lot to think about. So this graphic is by Dan Saffer, and with this, he aims to kind of organize all the different areas that consist of user experience. But today, we're going to be talking about 6 core disciplines. And these are typically found within the digital realm, but also just in general. When I say products, I'm not just speaking to digital. They conflate UX meaning digital. User experience can be digital. It can be, as we're seeing with this building, not all elevators go to all floors. What's going on with that experience? And that's not digital. So when I say products, I'm being very broad here, but the core disciplines when we talk about digital, we talk about user research, we talk about content strategy, information architecture, interaction design, visual design, and then usability and analytics. So there's the sciences part, there's the art part, and everything comes together before it even makes it to code. So it's left-brained, it's right-brained, it all comes together, does that. So to get started, public transportation is a good example of what can be good UX and what can be bad UX. So for those of us in Philadelphia, and for anybody who who is visiting Philadelphia, if you've ridden our public transportation SEPTA, so depending on what mode of transportation with SEPTA you are riding, you will have a different form of payment. So on some trains, it's cash only. On buses, it's tokens. On some other, like, it's just a hot mess of things. And it makes it very difficult when you transfer.
And they don't get change.
What's that? Yeah, when you transfer from one mode of transportation that takes tokens to another mode of transportation that's cash only, and the world doesn't really carry cash anymore. Like, most people are using credit at this point, and you get on the train and they go, oh, you have to get off at the next stop because you can't pay your way to get to where you're going. Really hard. So we're not going to be talking about SEPTA today, though. We're going to be talking about a completely different mode of public transportation, that is Transport for London, which houses the London's Underground, their bus system, their coach system, and we'll be examining a lot of that today. How many people have been to London? Awesome. So I went for the first time about 3 weeks ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So we'll go through and examine some things. So one of the best things about Transport for London is they have a recognizable logo. You know this is the Underground, even though it does not say Underground on it. This is the Bank Street icon that they use. So you know it's the Underground by the way it looks, and you know it's Bank Street with the typography on it. It's also used as a wayfinding tool. So here, this is a bus stop. Same circle with the line, same iconography, but it looks a little bit different. It helps with wayfinding of how you're going to navigate around London. Am I going to navigate on the Underground? Am I going to navigate by bus? Am I going to navigate by coach, which is different than a bus? Coach buses will run you between large towns, so say from London all the way to Bath, where your bus is more local to London, more of what we have here in the States. So it's really well designed. It's very pervasive throughout all of London's transportation systems. So we have the visual design in the maps and the colors of the different rail lines. Contactless payment. So super awesome in London. If your credit card has RFID enabled, you don't even have to buy a ticket to get on the subway. As you go through the turnstile, you just wave your phone, and you're on your way. Yeah, who has money on an MTA card that they haven't used in a while when they were in New York? Yeah. So, talk about pretty awesome. The other thing that's really cool is they have these moquettes. So this is a moquette. Each underground line has its own moquette, which means once you learn the moquettes, you know what line you're on. It's a wayfinding tool. So you take, London's really big, so you finally find the stop that you're at, and you get to the train, and you're like, am I on the right platform? And then the train comes, and you're like, is this even the right train? Because there's like 4 trains that come to that station. You can just look at the pattern on the seats and go, no, I don't need that. Yes, you will take me where I need to go. So the beginning of the UX process starts with user research. So up until this point, your business is like, we have a grand idea, we want to be awesome, help us. Okay, we can't, the one thing we need to do is understand why we need to be awesome, and that we can't just create stuff out of thin air. I mean, we could, but we can't guarantee that it'll work. So user research is the science-y part of user experience. We're using scientific research methods and techniques. We want to understand who we are designing for. We want to understand our users' goals and their motivations. User research really hones in on what is your user's behavior. We're not asking at this point, do you like this product? Are you going to use my product? My product's awesome, what do you think? We're really honing at what is your user's behavior, because the goal of user research is to identify how your product will naturally fit into the behavior of your user. Because you could change how your user behaves. We're seeing that with Pokemon Go. A lot of people are spending time outside. So there is a way to change your users' behavior, but you kind of need a baseline to understand where they're at and what's going to get somebody to go outside and play a game like that. You also need to understand what are your users' expectations for a product, or what are they trying to do? Here in user research, you don't want to focus on, will you find X feature valuable? Because the users don't know. You don't want to ask users to forecast behavior. So, for example, New Year's resolutions. How many of us are still working on our New Year's resolutions in July? Yeah. Okay, for those of you who are, mad props. If you asked in December, there were probably a lot more hands going up being like, yeah, I got resolutions going on. However, to forecast your behavior is very difficult because, hey, maybe somebody got sick in March and your New Year's resolution, go to the gym 4 days a week, kind of had to fall through because now all of a sudden you're sick or somebody else is sick or something happened. It's really hard to forecast, so you'd want to stay away with our user research from having users guess. So some techniques that can be used, and the thing with user research is it doesn't necessarily have to be your target user. Research can be very expensive. You can poll somebody who's not on your project but at your company and just get their thoughts on how they're going to accomplish A, B, or C. So interviews and observations. So interviews are self-reported. It's one-on-one time with people. So I get to sit with Kurt and I go, hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hey. But we have a one-on-one dialogue. I get to ask him about what his goals are in trying to complete a task. That task is what my product aims to fill and fix. And it's self-reported in the sense of Kurt's going to tell me what his opinions are about things, any kind of stresses or frustrations he has with this building. And I'm just going to take that back and completely be non-biased about that and understand. And if I interview everybody here, I'm pretty sure everybody will have a complaint about this building here. However, when you are interviewing people, you want open-ended questions. You do not want yes or no questions. If you write a question and the user can answer yes or no, not good. We're aiming to get stories here. Stories are going to provide us context in how our customers are going to potentially use our product. We don't know for sure, but we can get an idea. And we're trying to gather data around that to understand how is our product going to fit into our users' lives, and how is it going to provide value when it finds that niche in their life. You also want to avoid asking leading questions. So leading questions are assuming that potentially somebody got a benefit out of something when, I'm trying to think, let's go with an example. A leading question would be, did you feel that Tracy's talk prepared you for this class, for this lecture today? Yes or no? That's a closed question, but also I'm assuming in that question that A, you went to Tracy's talk, and B, that Tracy's talk prepared you for that. And people can feel weird, especially if Tracy's asking you that question. So a better way to ask a question like that would be, how did you prepare to come to today's session? At that point, the user can then open up a story. Well, I took a boot camp class, and then now I'm here because I want to learn more about Django, and they can bring you into their world. So observations. So observations are based in anthropological studies of field studies and observing people, really. So self-reported is one mechanism. However, observing people, what they say and what they do can be completely different. And observations give you that extra layer of context in environment too, especially if you're interviewing somebody, not where they're working or where they would be using your product. So enterprise. If you work on software for companies to consume, it'd be good to see your users in their day. I did a project for a trading desk, like Wall Street traders. You know what? I went up on the trading desk and I got to see what was happening in their day. I'm self-reported. My users could not tell me that they used the mouse more than the keyboard. They would not observe that. They would not know that about themselves. If I asked them about it, they would go, I don't know. Most people aren't tallying the time they are on the mouse versus the time they're typing on a keyboard. But observing, I can see as they're interacting with their software and their computer that because traders they're on the phones, they might only have one hand free, that they do a lot of mouse clicks, which will inform when I go to design that maybe I want to stay away from clicks on a keyboard and stay with clicks on a mouse just because their behavior does not accompany the keyboard clicking and the keyboard typing. So content strategy. Who's heard of content strategy? Okay. Content strategy is one of these not totally pervasive in companies yet, but they're learning. So when people come to your product, they're coming to absorb things. However, they're coming, your site's going to have content on it. You're not just going to make it pretty, give it a drop-down, and not put any content in your drop-down, because maybe not useful. So the goal of content strategy is to ensure that your product's message is being delivered and that your users understand that message that is being communicated to them. It's the voice and tone of how you talk about things. Law firms are very formal in their presentation, where a tech company is a little bit more casual in how they might talk about things. It's our lawyers and our employees versus our crew and our team members, and how you're going to talk to your customer base about that. It also covers how your content's going to be governed. So I'm pretty sure a lot of us have been to websites and the content is like way, way, way out of date. It's for a product that might not exist anymore, or they changed that feature and they didn't take that content down and you came across it and you're like, what is this? Your content strategist, part of their goal is to put some kind of governance in place to get rid of what we call content rot. So rotting content, content that goes bad because things move along, language changes, your products evolve, and if you're not taking down all that old stuff, somebody's going to come across it and you might get a phone call because that help article did not really help them. So a couple things with content strategy that you can do and get started, and it is the writing guidelines. So for anybody writing content for your site, what are the brand values they need to be writing to? So your product's brand. What's the voice and tone? I mentioned lawyers. Are you designing a site for lawyers and it needs to be very formal because that's how the legal industry operates? Or is this more of like a technology site? Hey, we're fun, come work with us. You get like unlimited PTO and like dog friendly kind of thing. Like how are you communicating to that where it's like, yeah, we offer these services, and the difference between the two is like legal services, you're usually in a crisis if you're going to a lawyer for something. And the big thing to keep in mind is on that spectrum, you do want to be very clear and stated. It's not a time to be funny if somebody's going through a crisis. So this is where content strategy comes in, is you need to understand the context of your user and how they're absorbing that content. And your content strategist will be like, this is how we're talking to our users because we did our user research and we know that this is our user group. So message hierarchy. So this is how you tell your story. Your story will start with your primary message of what the goal or the brand of your site is. You want it to be valuable and understandable. From there, secondary messaging are the key messages that support your primary message. So your primary message is, we are X company, here's what we do. Your secondary messaging is maybe why you're doing what you're doing. And you want to consider the facts and the data on the page as well as you're putting these messages together. And then any calls to action. So the big thing with content is I come to a website, I gather content, what do I do with that content now? The big thing that you want to make sure is when you're writing content or asking a content writer for content is, can your user take action on that content? If it's legal content like your terms of service, maybe not. However, anything else, are you positioning me to sell something? Do you want me to buy? Do you want me to get help? How am I going to get help? You're messaging me that something's wrong. Great, what do I do now? Putting messaging in line that's like, here's how you go get help to fix your problem, rather than providing dead ends. So calls to action are incredibly important. And then metadata. So metadata, it totally comes in to content strategy. We spent all this time putting these guidelines together, figuring out our voice and tone and what we want to say to the customer. So using SEO analytics and the guidelines that we've put together, what's the metadata going to be on the pages? How is that going to populate throughout your title tags and your description tags, your HTML tags and your title, those HTML title tags? Because SEO is going to comb for them. And user research, we know what language our users are using to reference what could be our product. Following user research now informs us. And then you can go on from there. So taking a look at this, because content strategy is still can be a little difficult to grasp. So New York MTA, which owns the subway, and Transport for London are both public entities, and they have to publish their budgets. Pretty dry information. However, this is the first line of the body of their body copy. So they have their title, hey, we're here for budgets. Transport for London is pretty informative. This is the budget year we just passed. It was passed on this date. Here's what you can find here. MTA is like, here's PDF. Enjoy. So you might not know what the user exactly is coming for when they come to the budgets page, but to help them, it's setting context. Transport for London, it's setting context that, okay, I know this is a recent budget I'm looking at, and I know what the goal of this budget is. For the MTA, I'm expecting a giant Excel spreadsheet right now. So with content strategy, you want to avoid content rot by having a governance plan as well. So this is some type of intake, copy scrub, maybe every 6 months, maybe once a year to get rid of the old stuff, introduce new stuff, things like that. Moving on. Information architecture. So this is my personal love. I love organizing things. Who loves organizing their closets? Has anybody organized their sock drawer? Oh, yeah. Okay. So information architecture in the digital sense is the underlying glue to everything that's going on. It focuses on the organization and relationships of your content. So this is why we don't wait for content to be the last thing, because we need content to organize on the site, right? So to save your content for last is not going to help very much. So I mentioned information architecture. We organize information. We create relationships. We take you content A and you content Q. You're related, so we're going to put you together. I had on my first slide the Post-its. UXers love Post-its. And they're awesome because you can take that information and create relationships with the content that their content strategist is working on. So here, we're talking about structuring and labeling. Bless you.
Thank you.
Structuring. How is the organization, or how is the content related to each other? But then within those organizations, those little clumps of related content, how do those relate to the other things around it? And then how does it relate to the product? So it's this really like, you have one Post-it, you have a group of Post-its, you have a wall of Post-its, you have a room of Post-its. And everything's tied together, and everything relates to one another. Everything can play off of each other. So the whole goal of structuring is to work to provide meaning behind the content. And it also provides structure. So an example I often give of IA is Bed Bath & Beyond. When you go in, it's like anything and everything for your home. You can get lost in there. However, if I found laundry products in my kitchen section, okay, who's going like, huh? Yeah, that's information architecture. It's putting those relationships. So, your laundry detergent should not go next, probably doesn't go next to your dish detergent, because your dish detergent typically from your user research, is classified as kitchen cleaning item. So maybe it goes in the kitchen section. Or, your utensil dividers. Do your utensil dividers belong next to the dryer balls that go into the drying machine? Yeah, I see faces, you're like, huh? Information architecture goes, you two people, you two items, you don't belong together. But you two, the utensil rack and the baking pans, you all can go together. You can hang out and be friends. Labeling. So labeling is super, super, super important because it conveys meaning. And in the world of taxonomy, which is defining of terms and concepts, who's been on a project where you've had 4 terms for one concept? The business calls it one thing, research is calling it another, yeah. So labeling is incredibly important because you can have exactly what you're dealing with on your teams right now, and a lot of confusion can happen because of it. So working on your labels, and how do you get to your labels? You do your research to understand how your users are talking about things and what kind of language they're using. And then you work with the content strategist who helps to figure out, like, okay, we're going to talk about the product in these terms, and then we're going to label things based off of all that work that's been done up until now. So a couple IA examples outside of digital. So in the underground, larger stations actually have one-way hallways. So we'll see no entry, and you'll see the underground. And once you get underground in the large stations, it's literally a single hallway, and everybody's moving in the same way. You're not running into people who are going opposite of you. Really awesome for traffic flow and getting you to where you need to. So we're running through the tunnel, and then we get to a platform, and what do? Oh my gosh, how do I know where I'm going to go and what line I'm on? And am I going east, west, north, south? These are awesome because it tells you northbound serves these stations. Southbound serves these stations. Depending on where you want to go, the sign's going to help you. And the labeling based off of usually location in the public transportation area is going to tell you where you're going. So you come here and you're like, okay, I'm on the Jubilee line, awesome. I'm going to go southbound, and we're going to go see the London Bridge. Great. So we go and get on the platform, and the train pulls up. Oh, awesome, it's the Jubilee line Marquette. So now we know we're on the train right now. Information architecture is underlying all of that. It's helping you wayfind. And we talk about sitemaps and navigation structures. All of that falls into information architecture. Wireframes as well. Interaction design. So people are coming to your product, they're looking for stuff, they're obviously going to interact with it somehow. So interaction design focuses on the behavior of the product and the interaction between the user and your product. So how does your product respond to the user's input? We see this a lot with phones, the tap, the swipe. How do you know to navigate around? There was a designer who was like, we're going to make this a swipe. We're going to make this a tap. We're going to make this one a tap and hold. A designer is actually thinking about this stuff. So your interaction designer is going to be focused on the environment and transitions. So your environments are setting the context for your user. I'm here in Huntsman's Hall at Penn using my phone. I am at home using my desktop to work online, to do work at work. Those are your environments, and that context might change what you're going to serve to your user base. The transitions are moving between contexts. So I start, Amazon's really great at this. I start browsing something on my phone, and then I'm like at home on my, sitting on the couch on my iPad, and they go, oh, hey, yeah, you were browsing this, or you added this to your cart. Then I go on my desktop, because I'm still weird about purchasing stuff on my mobile devices, and it's like there. All throughout these different, I'm moving, I'm transitioning between contexts. I'm able to pick up right where I left off. So the user's environment will impact how you present that information. So whether you're on a mobile device, or if you're on a desktop, if you're planning your journey on public transportation, or if you're in the middle of your journey. If I'm in the middle of my journey, I'm most likely not on a desktop or a laptop of some sort. So how is your product going to meet those user needs as they switch between these environments and these contexts? Transitions are key, and we see this as you take public transit, the transition of buying your ticket to actually getting onto the train platform, to boarding the train, to getting off the train at your stop. Here in Philly, we don't have to do it, but I know in New York, you have to swipe your card again, I'm pretty sure. I haven't been there in a while. But in London, you swipe your card to go in, and you swipe your card to go out, and then it charges it. Here in Philly, we don't do that. It's like pay when you go on, you're good. Those transitions are key in understanding and making things easier. That contactless I brought up, it'd be awesome if America had that, but we don't. So looking at this digitally, this is the status updates for the London Underground. So here we can see on the left side, our information architecture shows, here's all the different lines, here's all the statuses for them. The London Overground and Piccadilly line are having some issues. And this is the default map that we're seeing. So typically when you see the London Underground map, you have all these colors. But here the colors are kind of gone. And you see there's this, let's see how good I am at this. We got blue, and there's like an orange here, an orange here. And it's like, okay, are those working? Are they not working? But it turns out you can change your context of how you're understanding this information. So your interaction designer is, right now they have this menu that pops up over, your interaction designer in a digital space, could it be a radio button that allows you to switch? Could it be an overlay? They're determining, your interaction designer is looking at all these different things and how is somebody going to interact with these. And then this is the mobile screen. So here, and then if you want to view the map, you click, and it just appears. There's no animations or anything. Your interaction designer can totally put in some cool animations. Well, you all can code the animations. They'll say we can do an animation. So to continue on, visual design. So this is so much, right? In some companies, there's one person who does all of this, FYI. So visual design, this is the first impression that people usually have. They look, they pull up a product, it's oh, this looks awesome. Your business is gonna say more about your visual design than they will about your information architecture or any of the other work you've done. Just because there's something about color and typography that give people that this visceral reaction of oh, I love it, or oh, that's awful. There's just something about it where information architecture or content strategy, people are okay, cool, like your idea. So with visual design, visual designers establish systems and they establish patterns. And they're to be, the whole goal of this is to be utilized and reused and reused and reused with a variety of different products. Visual design will differentiate, as we saw earlier with the London Underground and Transport for London, roundel, as they call them, with the circle and the line across. But it also unifies. So, with the roundel we saw earlier, oh, that's the underground. Oh, that's the bus. Oh, that's the coach. They all look the same, but they're different. So it's unifying that this is a transportation mode, differentiating what mode of transportation. So here, and I know there were some talks on this a little bit earlier, so visual design, some aspects of it are typography, color, and space. So typography, we use heading sizes to designate the hierarchy of the page. So your information architecture is going to go, these groups of information go together. Your visual designer is going to lay them out in a way so that your user can visually distinguish group A belongs up here, and group B is this group of information, and group C is this information. Headings always help with that. That's why we have, I think, what is it, up to H6s in the HTML now? I'm not coding that much anymore, so, but there's a reason for that, and you can utilize it here. We use color to distinguish a lot from one another. So there's definitely accessibility that needs to be thought about here. We're not going to get into that today. And then space. So space is the other form of, another way of showing architecture. You have your heading of an H1 and then your paragraph, but then visually representing like this item and this item that's a little bit further away are two completely separate items. So these are the roundels for Transport for London. And it's really cool to see how one icon can be used in 8, 9, 10, 11 different ways to represent 11 different modes of really like 10 modes of transportation, because that first one is the Transport for London logo. But the differentiation between them two. So your IA is like, we need a logo. We need a way to say this is a special mode of transportation, but your visual designer will go, okay, this is how we're going to tell them all apart. And here, we see really big, like coaches. This is a coach stop. And we can actually see behind here, we have a bus stop, too. Spatially, they're not even on top of each other. They're like maybe, a couple feet apart. But on the coach sign, it's clearly, okay, this is a coach stop. Here's the stop name. We're at Hyde Park Corner. Here are the buses that come here, the coach buses. And then, without getting into the details, here's the bus operator. So usability and analytics. So usability is really awesome because we did all this work, and now we get to test it all. So science comes to play back in here. So why do we want to do usability? Has anybody sent out code without QAing it? Like, do you do that normally? And that's what I thought. So usability is our way of testing whether our design met what we learned. So we did our user research, and we can set up a hypothesis on the user research. Then we do all the content strategy and the IA and interaction design and visual design, and it looks awesome. Now usability is going to tell us how close we were to that mark that we were able to gather from the user research that we did, all the way at the beginning. So it's our version of QAing, essentially. So some techniques for usability studies, there are task-based studies. So here, you're going to have your participant go, I need you to plan a trip. You're going to plan a trip from Westminster Abbey over to the London Bridge. Can you show me how to get there? And your user would go through your Transport for London site, and hopefully they have no problems. However, if you find after 3 or 4 or 5 participants that they keep getting hung up on one aspect of that plan your journey, or they're just not able to complete it at all, that's obviously an area where you're going to have to go back and rethink. But the good news is you didn't code it, so it's a little bit easier to do that now. So task-based studies, that's really what it's for. At this point, you can start asking questions about, about the product. Like, can you tell me what you see here and how would you use A, B, and C on this product? The one thing with a task-based study, though, is if a user is struggling, so if you're having somebody plan their trip on the Transport for London site, and they're like really, really struggling, do not show them how to do it. Do not. We're testing the interface, we're not testing our participants, and we don't want them to feel like they're stupid. Because a lot of people will be putting pressure on themselves, and they're like, oh, I just don't get it, it's me. Just ask them, how would you complete this task? Because there's a purpose in that. And okay, so we're going to run through this real quick. But the purpose of asking how would you complete this is getting insight into how they're thinking and how they would accomplish that task. 0? Okay, so I'll give you this term you can go Google, Guerilla usability testing. So real quick to wrap up, user research focuses on understanding. Content strategy focuses on communication. Information architecture focuses on organization. Interaction design focuses on transitions. Visual design focuses on clarity. Usability and analytics focuses on measurement. So, ladies and gents, that is full stack of UX. It's a lot. At some companies, you have one person who does this all. At larger companies, you'll usually have people split up into some kind of specialties. So, if you have any questions, I will be here today. You can find me on Twitter. So thank you.